Hello and welcome. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Gargi Rawat. Stay with us for all the news you need to start your day with. In Parliament today, the Contentious Electoral Reform Bill is listed for the Rajya Sabha. Also a march by the opposition today against Ajay Mishra. All that and more coming up over the next 1 hour. Let's take a look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. The politically contentious the Election Laws Amendment Bill that links Aadhaar to voter ID is listed for the Rajya Sabha today after it was pushed through the Lok Sabha yesterday despite opposition. Opposition MPs from the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will hold a joint march to Vijay Chowk seeking the sacking of Union Minister Ajay Mishra. Rahul Gandhi too will join in. The controversial anti-conversion bill will be tabled in the winter session of the Karnataka Assembly today. A major political row has erupted in Jammu and Kashmir over a draft proposal that suggests 6 new seats for Jammu, only 1 for Kashmir. This is opposed by local parties. Punjab politicians hit out over the cases of alleged sacrilege in the Golden Temple and in Kapurthala, but no one condemns the mob lynchings. No police case has been filed on the lynchings. And Priyanka Chopra Jonas talks to NDTV about being part of Matrix Resurrections and making a place for herself in Hollywood. Our top story, the Election Laws Amendment Bill 2021 that seeks to link electoral roll data with the Aadhaar ecosystem was passed by the Lok Sabha on Monday amid protests by opposition members who raised strong objection to the bill, saying that it violates the fundamental right to privacy. Today, the bill has been listed for final consideration and passing in the Rajya Sabha.
मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, प्रस्ताव स्वीकृत हुआ और विधेयक पारित हुआ.
Another reform measure cleared in the Lok Sabha amidst the din. The Lok Sabha gave the go-ahead to an electoral reform bill to link Aadhaar cards with the voter identity card to ensure there is no duplication of names in the electoral rolls. Opposition members, including supporting parties like the BJD, opposed both the bill and also the manner in which it was cleared.
प्रस्ताव स्वीकृत हुआ और विधेयक पारित हुआ. All you are getting is a document that reflects residence. It does not reflect any proof of citizenship, and therefore you are potentially giving the vote to non-citizens.
आप इस तरह का कानून बनाकर इलेक्शन कमीशन के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडी में मदाखलत कर रहे हैं, उनकी ऑटोनॉमी पर हमला कर रहे हैं.
If the honorable minister wants electoral reforms, he should take this bill back, bring a comprehensive bill of entire all electoral reforms, talk about the women's reservation bill, electronic bonds, महिला रिजर्वेशन का बिल भी इसके साथ लाए. हम साथ में समर्थन करेंगे.
The government argued that the standing committee had already recommended the need for a law to merge the voter's identity card with the Aadhaar card, and these are long pending reforms mooted by the Election Commission.
पार्लियामेंट्री स्टैंडिंग कमेटी में बहुत व्यापक रूप से चर्चा हो चुके हैं और पार्लियामेंट्री स्टैंडिंग कमेटी ने unanimously recommendation किया है.
The opposition raised the following concerns to which the government responded. Privacy, government's response, it's not mandatory. Bogus voting, government's response, Aadhaar-Voter ID card will prevent bogus voting. Voter profiling, government's response, no provision to mine data. Bill brought all of a sudden, government's response, recommendation by standing committee, not all of a sudden. The government feels the opposition's criticism is not sincere.
विपक्ष की भूमिका बहुत स्पष्ट नजर आती है कि वो ना चर्चा करना चाहते हैं, ना डिबेट करना चाहते हैं, हाउस की प्रोसीडिंग्स में पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करना चाहते हैं.
The election amendment bill is slated for passing in the Rajya Sabha on Tuesday. While the government is confident of the numbers, the Congress has issued a whip to all its MPs to oppose the passage of this bill. The scenes in Parliament all too similar. Another reform bill, another controversy, another voice vote, and another round of confrontation between the Treasury and opposition benches. With Sunil Prabhu, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Opposition MPs from Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will join a joint march to Vijay Chowk today, seeking the sacking of Union Minister Ajay Mishra. Rahul Gandhi is also likely to join the march. Opposition parties have been protesting in Parliament, seeking Mishra's dismissal from the Union government after a special investigation team report described as a pre-planned conspiracy the killing of 4 farmers in UP's Lakhimpur Kheri on the 3rd of October. The prime accused in the case is Ashish Mishra, the son of Ajay Mishra Teni. Ashish Mishra is currently lodged in jail in Uttar Pradesh. Now, Monday was a day of heated arguments in Parliament, and not just the electoral reforms bill. Samajwadi Party MP Jaya Bachchan was hugely upset in the Rajya Sabha after a personal remark against her by a member while she was speaking on the bill on narcotic drugs.
आपके बुरे दिन बहुत जल्द आने वाले हैं। ऑनरेबल मेंबर, आपके बुरे दिन बहुत जल्दी आने वाले हैं। अगर आपके अंदर इतनी
You don't have to reply to him.
सर बात भी ना करने में
आप एड्रेस कीजिए शेयर को।
ना बैठे
आप शेयर को
चलाई छोड़ दीजिए हम लोगों का। आप लोग चलाइए। क्या बोल रहे हैं आप? What are you saying? Tell me what are you saying? Have the courage to stand up and speak and make such nasty remarks.
I don't want to make any personal comments on anyone. Whatever happened was unfortunate. They should not have spoken the way they did, and which got me very upset.
Now, actor Aishwarya Rai Bachchan was questioned by the Enforcement Directorate for over 5 hours on Monday on forex violations, allegations related to the Panama Papers in Delhi. The Panama Papers case is a sprawling investigation spanning millions of documents stolen and leaked to the media in 2016. The case involves allegations that the world's richest and powerful set up offshore accounts or shell companies to avoid taxes. Leaked financial records of politicians, industrialists and celebrities worldwide were reviewed and then published by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. So Aishwarya Rai Bachchan questioned over these alleged forex violations. Well, let's now get you the latest on coronavirus and the new variant of COVID, Omicron. Amid the scare over Omicron, COVID cases have started to go up in metro cities as well. Delhi has reported its highest daily cases in 6 months, and cases have started to rise in Mumbai and Bengaluru as well. But the government told Parliament that we're ready to fight Omicron.
भारत में आज वर्तमान समय में 161 केस पाया गया है और ये सीखने के बाद आने वाले दिनों में देश में कोविड क्राइसिस बढ़े और केस बढ़े तो उसके लिए भी प्रिपेयरनेस हमने पहले से करके रखी।
इस व्यक्ति में कोरोना है तो ये कौन से वाला कोरोना है? ये
All positive cases in Delhi to be sent for genome sequencing. This is what was decided at a meeting of the Delhi Disaster Management Authority today, a day after the national capital reported 107 cases, highest in over 6 months.
सारे जितने भी पॉजिटिव केस दिल्ली के अंदर निकलेंगे सबको हम जीनोम टेस्टिंग के लिए भेजेंगे। हम चाहते हैं कि अब बूस्टर डोज अलाउ की जाए। इस बारे में केंद्र सरकार परमिशन देता है।
Not just Delhi, number of COVID cases have been rising in other cities as well, with Mumbai reporting 336 cases on Sunday, the highest in 39 days. The bigger worry, rising Omicron among people with no travel or contact history. 11 cases in Karnataka reported in the past 20 days have no travel or contact history, hinting at a possibility of local transmission now. With rising Omicron cases and holiday season, states are announcing protocols.
वैसे एक SOP बना दिए 50% के और 100 का है तो 50% लोग उपस्थित होना चाहिए। अभी आने वाला नाताल है, क्रिसमस है, वो लोग तो बहुत ही समंजस लोग हैं, वो नियमों का पालन पक्का करेंगे।
जहां तक 25 दिसंबर की क्रिसमस की बात कर रहे हैं आप, नई साल की, अगर न्यू ईयर पर हिमाचल में बहुत सारा टूरिस्ट आता है, तो हमने एक ही चीज को लेकर के कहा है कि जो हमारा एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है वो क्राउड को रेगुलेट करे।
अपने यहाँ का अभी तक रिपोर्ट नहीं आया है कोई पॉजिटिव। 10 लाख में जितना टेस्ट देश का एवरेज है उससे काफी ज्यादा हम लोगों का हो गया टेस्ट। अब हम लोगों का समझिए कि 5 लाख से ऊपर चला गया।
Travel experts say tourism will take a hit if Omicron cases rise further.
People traveling in India are not affected as of now. If something very big happens, then of course travel is the first industry to be hit.
Prevention is always better than cure, so while the concerns over a third wave of COVID-19 are rising every day, only robust measures by the government and strict compliance of COVID-appropriate behavior can minimize the damage. With camera person Ashok Mahale, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
But just how lethal is this new variant Omicron? Different studies have said different things. Some have called it mild, some have said it's as severe as Delta.
But how lethal is Omicron? Does it cause severe disease? Will a third dose of vaccine give better immunity against Omicron? Well, these questions now have the world on edge. In EU, in UK, in US, Omicron threat is already looming over the holiday cheer and leading to more restrictions kick in. But what about India? A very different demographic, remember, than the West. A major study has come by the Imperial College now in London University that shows that they have no evidence to say that Omicron is less severe than Delta. Now this at a time when already 2 or 3, in fact 4 studies have pointed towards Omicron being mild. But the Imperial College study that looked at the growth and population distribution and immune escape of Omicron in England says otherwise. Now what exactly does it say about the natural immunity? Now according to the study, the previous COVID-19 recovery provides little shield against infection with the Omicron variant and gives you probably just about 19% protection. How does it work? Let's see next against 2 doses of the vaccine. Again, in the study they say they work, in fact give you just about the same immunity as a natural infection. It does elude protection from previous infection as well, and despite 2 vaccinations, what you get is roughly 20% protection against Omicron. We then looked at whether or not a booster dose, a third dose, can help. Well, according to the report, adding a booster dose does help dramatically, blocking an estimated 55% to 80% of symptomatic cases, underlining how important really a booster shot is to fight in Omicron. But when it came to the all-crucial severity of the infection and comparing Omicron with Delta, in this comparison, the study says it is difficult to conclude. According to the study, there was no evidence of Omicron cases being less severe than Delta based on the proportion of people testing positive who had symptoms or had gone to the hospital. And just how severe Omicron cases will be remains still unclear. Adding it to too soon, it says, on how hospitalizations are playing out in UK. Bottom line really here is there are different buckets in which studies are being done on vaccinated people, on unvaccinated people, in different demographics as well. What India needs to do needs to be quick and needs to be now.
Well, moving on now to other news and some good news in Jammu and Kashmir, where power employees have called off the strike after an agreement with the Union Territory Administration, which has agreed to put on hold the proposed joint venture in power sector and accepted other demands of the striking employees. Soon after midnight, the announcement electricity was then restored in parts of Jammu and Kashmir. Well, let's go across to Nazir for more. Nazir, that's good news for all the people who are facing these power shortages at a time of severe cold. Also, it seems the demands of the striking employees have been met?
Yeah, exactly. That is, there's a written, agreement between the government administration and the striking power employees, and both the sides have signed on this agreement. And soon after the agreement, midnight agreement, and the power employees said they are restoring power supplies, and power supplies have been restored in most parts of Jammu and Kashmir. So for 3 days, it was very, very difficult time for the people living in sub-zero temperatures in most parts of Jammu and Kashmir, when we see unprecedented blackout, and army had to be called for restoration of restoring power supplies. That was the situation. 20,000 power employees were on strike, and they were, in fact, their demands were rather supported by the power employees association across the country from different states. They said what government is doing in Jammu and Kashmir is not right. It is going to set a dangerous precedent, because government has proposed to, privatize or have these joint ventures of the power assets, including the transmission and grid stations. This is what employees have been saying for last 3 days, that they are saying it was not their own personal thing. Besides their demands about the pay and other things, the main thing was that the assets, power infrastructure, that should remain with the state. It should not be handed over to the private, companies, which the assets which have been built over decades in Jammu and Kashmir. So finally, government has to accept their demands, and there's a written agreement between the government employees and the administration, and they are saying they are going to put on hold this joint venture proposal, and there would be a committee of all the stakeholders, including these power employees, who would make their recommendation about how to move ahead in this thing. So big relief for the people after 3 days of blackout in Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, Nazir, thanks so much for joining us with those details. And staying with news from Jammu and Kashmir, a major political row has erupted in Jammu and Kashmir over a draft proposal that has suggested that 6 new legislative seats for Jammu and only 1 for Kashmir, in a move that local parties have described as gerrymandering and an attempt to tilt the balance of power towards Jammu. The draft by the Union Government's Delimitation Commission was distributed among 5 MPs from Jammu and Kashmir who are associate members of the body during its meeting in New Delhi on Monday, and was rejected by all political parties in Kashmir who have termed it biased and unacceptable.
The Commission has also done a tremendous job, we must appreciate. They have followed certain laid down parameters on the basis of which they have come out with a document which is very objectively done, and all the associated members, regardless of their party or political affiliations, not only appreciated the work done by the Delimitation Commission, but also committed that they would, in future also, for the rest of the exercise, cooperate in all possible means.
We reject in total this draft proposal of the Delimitation Commission because it is not based on the mandate which was assigned to the Delimitation Commission. 2011 census has to be the base. We are per se do not object which region gets what, but a basis has to be there. Basis has to be population. Yes, it is very clear the Commission has played games.
Welcome back. News from the Northeast now. The Nagaland Assembly, through a special session convened yesterday, has demanded the repeal of the Contentious Armed Forces Special Powers Act from the state and elsewhere in the Northeast, and an apology from appropriate authority for the botched army operation that led to the death of 14 civilians in Mon district a fortnight ago. The demands were among 5 resolutions the 60-member House adopted at a day-long special session on Monday. Among other resolutions was strengthening the ongoing efforts to find a peaceful solution to the protracted Naga political issue. Now, this came on a day when family members of the victims and their friends and neighbors from Oting village visited the incident site for the first time after the incident. First, they offered prayers and then protested against the armed forces and demanded justice.
After 16 days of the incident, we have come here. We were told that NBCC church leaders from Nagaland will be coming, so we came here to meet them. And after reaching the spot, our feelings, we were intensified all the more. And it is a fact that we will never forget the betrayal of the Indian Army and the government, how they are acting till today, including all those statements that they have given. We as an Uting citizen, we will never be able to do anything against them in any way, but we will still go on fighting for the justice to be given to us.
Now, in neighbouring Assam, Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma on Monday said that the state will continue with AFSPA, and a decision on withdrawing it will be taken only if the present peace prevailing for a long term. Earlier, his counterpart from Meghalaya, Conrad Sangma, have voiced for scrapping of AFSPA altogether.
Suppose I withdraw, but will that be reciprocated by the militant organization? If they do not withdraw, we withdraw, then Army will not be able to do any operation. Then meaning thereby, you are inviting a chaos. So I think AFSA withdrawal is linked up with the peace and stability of the state. Assam government is also of the view that if this kind of peaceful situation continues, so at a later date we will be able to take a call that whether we need AFSPA in entire Assam or we need only in partially.
Welcome back. To cases of alleged sacrilege and then mob lynchings in Punjab. The police are still trying to identify the man who jumped into the sanctum sanctorum of the Golden Temple. But no case has been filed against the lynching of the man in the Golden Temple. And then a second case that emerged in Kapurthala. While politicians have condemned the sacrilege, no one has condemned the lynchings.
In Punjab's Kapurthala, a mob jumps over the wall of a Gurudwara. Inside, police are trying to protect a man accused of sacrilege from the mob's fury. But in the presence of the police, the man is killed. His dead body driven away in a police gypsy. The police admitting to their failure.
ਬੜੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ ਪਿਛਲੇ 2-3 ਘੰਟੇ ਤੋਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਆ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਕ ਕਰੀਏ ਬਟ ਮੌਬ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਇਮੋਸ਼ਨਲ ਮੈਂਟੈਲਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੀਗੀ.
This despite the police themselves saying there is no evidence of sacrilege. If that was not enough, a top police official who initially said that FIR has been registered for the Kapurthala murder later did a U-turn after his press conference was interrupted by a phone call.
And if for the sake of दूसरी एफआईआर ਜਿਹੜੀ ਦਰਜ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਐਸਐਚਓ ਦੇ ਬਿਆਨ ਤੇ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਐਸਐਚਓ ਮੌਕੇ ਤੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਸੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਕੀਤਾ ਇਕੱਠਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਹਮਲਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਡਿਊਟੀ 'ਚ ਵਿਘਨ ਪਾਇਆ ਔਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਹਥਿਆਰ ਵਰਤ ਕੇ ਕੁੱਟਮਾਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਿਆ ਫॉर द ਸੇਕ ਆਫ ਕੋਈ ਜਵਾਬ ਹੈ ਜਵਾਬ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਰ 295 ਇਹ ਹੈ ਡੈਸੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਲਿਸਟ ਅਦਰ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਤੇ ਹਮਲਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੈ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਦੀ ਡੈਥ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ that is still under verification and law will take its course. If it appears to be case of a murder, then FIR will be registered.
Even in the case of the killing of the man at Golden Temple, who was caught on camera trying to enter into the sanctum sanctorum of the Golden Temple and trying to flee with the sword put up there, the emphasis of the probe seemed to be on the sacrilege issue and not the killing, because the FIR has been registered for the sacrilege issue but not the murder. Though the state government has now set up an SIT to probe the entire sequence of the event to ascertain whether there was any conspiracy behind the sacrilege cases.
Top political leaders who have been highly visible in the run-up to the Punjab elections are yet to condemn these killings. Instead, State Congress President Navjot Sidhu has demanded the public execution of those accused of sacrilege.
ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਲਿਆ ਕੇ ਫਾਹਾ ਲਾ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਨਸਟੀਟਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਸਜ਼ਾ ਦੇਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ.
The only condemnation of the killings has came from former Congress President Sunil Jakhar.
इस किस्म की घटनाओं में जितनी निंदा की जाए उतना कम है. बहुत ही घटिया सोच और बहुत ही खतरनाक सोच का प्रतीक है ये जो बेअदबी की घटनाएं करवाने की प्रयास किया गया है.
His reasons for the political silence and police inertia is not hard to guess. The issue of sacrilege has been an emotive issue in Punjab, triggering protest across the state since 2015 when a number of instances of alleged sacrilege of Sikh holy books was reported.
But there is a widespread belief that the state government has not done enough to punish those guilty in sacrilege cases, which may be stoking this vigilante justice. But that's not an excuse for the politicians or the police to come down hard on this latest cycle of killings in Punjab. With Ashwini Malhotra in Kapurthala, Mohammad Ghazali for NDTV.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਦੇ ਸੇਵਾਦਾਰ ਹੈ ਬਾਬਾ ਅਮਰਜੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਣਪਛਾਤਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਕੰਧ ਟੱਪ ਕੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਅੰਦਰ ਐਂਟਰ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਫੜ ਲਿਆ ਵਾ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਛੇਤੀ ਆ ਜਾਓ. ਅਸੀਂ ਫਿਰ 2-4 ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਫੋਨ ਕੀਤੇ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਡੀ ਤੇ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਚਲੇ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਮੁੜ ਕੇ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਗਿਆ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੋਕ ਉੱਥੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਸਨ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਸਨ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਆ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਬੰਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ, ਪਰ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸ਼੍ਰੋਮਣੀ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਦੇ ਅਕਾਲ ਤਖਤ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਫੋਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਵਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਆਉਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਤਲਬ ਵੀ ਬੰਦਾ ਦੇ ਦੇਣਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਲੈ ਲਿਓ। ਸਮਾਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਧੁੰਦ ਦਾ ਮੌਸਮ ਸੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦਿਆਂ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ ਇੱਧਰਲੇ ਪਾਸਿਓਂ ਜਿਉਂ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਬੰਦਾ ਅੰਦਰ ਐਂਟਰ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ ਅਣਪਛਾਤਾ, ਉਸ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਲੈਬ ਸੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ, ਉਹ ਤੋਂ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਨੇੜਿਓਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਇਕੱਠੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੋ ਗਈ। ਫਿਰ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਆਪਣਾ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਅਣਪਛਾਤੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਆਏ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਫੜ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਤਾ।
In other news, now 1 in every 2 students failed Telangana's intermediate first year exams equivalent to the 11th class, and 3 students died by suicide after that. Activists say students cannot be allowed to pay the price for factors beyond their control, like the COVID pandemic that killed physical classes and online classes, options that did not work for them. Uma Sudhir reports.
Protests by different student groups and unions in Hyderabad after more than 50% students failed in Telangana's intermediate first year exams. 3 students have died by suicide, heartbroken that they failed. The average pass percentage in the last 3 years for intermediate first year has been about 60%, which means there's an 11% drop in the pass percentage. Sources tell us that in fact the pass percentage is only 37% and grace marks were added to all the students in order to bring that up to 49%. Mohammad Attar failed in commerce, though he scored over 70% in all other subjects. He says commerce was a new subject. There were no physical classes and he could not learn online either.
प्रॉब्लम तो ऑनलाइन क्लासेस हुए थे बीच में, ऑनलाइन क्लासेस तो सही हो रहे नहीं थे, खाली 15 डेज पढ़ाने के वजह दिए। 15 डेज में क्या पढ़ना कुछ भी समझ नहीं आया। अब पूरे एग्जाम तो हम पढ़ के गए, लिखे 70 अबव है पूरों में। अबे कॉमर्स के अंदर 25 डाल दिए डायरेक्ट, हम 70 मार्क्स का लिखे थे।
पास होता बोल के मालूम था, ये 1 मार्क्स से फेल हो गया। तो बच्चे ऑनलाइन क्लास होने की वजह से मैम बच्चों के से पढ़ाया भी नहीं हो रहे।
Activists point out that online classes were a big challenge for most students. Students attended hardly 13 days of physical classes as against 220 days on the regular academic calendar. Students were told they were promoted to second year but were asked to write the first year exam 6 months later. This batch was promoted without exams in 10th class and there was no filtration of students.
90% of the students are away from this online classes due to infrastructure failure or lack of infrastructure in rural areas. So ultimately the result shows though students of urban area passed remarkably, the students of rural area could not do better. And the students of government sector failed miserably.
The intermediate board has now sent a proposal to the Chief Minister's office suggesting some methodology to help students move forward. 2019 had seen 25 intermediate students die by suicide in Telangana. In Hyderabad, with camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Now, a shocking incident of dishonor killing in Uttar Pradesh's Noida, where a 22-year-old girl and her male friend were thrashed using bricks by the brothers of the girl. While the boy died due to his injuries, the girl's condition remained serious. The assailants fled the spot, assuming that both had died. During the patrolling, a PRV van of the police then found them. And while the boy had died, the girl has survived and was taken to a hospital where her condition is critical. Her two brothers of the survivor were then arrested and are being interrogated now by the police. News now from Kerala, where 2 political leaders were killed in 12 hours in Alappuzha. 50 people have been detained and 2 arrests have been made in one of those murder cases. An all-party meeting may also take place. Alappuzha remains under prohibitory orders and vigilance has been heightened across Kerala.
BJP's OBC Morcha Secretary Ranjit Srinivasan and Social Democratic Party of India's General Secretary K.S. Shan both stabbed to death within 12 hours in Kerala's Alappuzha. Massive crowds bid goodbye to Ranjit Srinivasan after he was brutally stabbed to death on Sunday morning inside his home before his family. But the BJP leader's murder came less than 12 hours after the brutal murder of SDPI's KS Shan. His funeral on Sunday night also saw a massive turnout. Over 50 people have been detained by the police in last 24 hours, among them many with BJP or SDPI links. 2 pro-RSS activists have been arrested, say top police officials.
രഞ്ജിത്തിന്റെ മർഡർ കേസിൽ നമുക്ക് കുറച്ച് ക്ലൂസ് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ടത്. പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട 12 പേര് പിന്നെ കുറച്ച് കൂടുതൽ ആവാൻ സാധ്യത ഉണ്ട്. ഇതുവരെ കിട്ടിയ ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ 12 പേരുണ്ടാണ്. കുറച്ച് സബ്സ്റ്റാൻഷ്യൽ ലീഡ്സ് നമ്മുടെ കയ്യിലുണ്ട്.
Kerala police claims they need more time and evidence to confirm these killings as political murders, something that has been a blot on Kerala politics since decades. But now a foremost challenge before the current government, with the opposition hitting out at the ruling left.
विगत कई वर्षों में भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ताओं की और नेताओं की हत्या बड़े पैमाने पे हुई है और लोकतंत्र के लिए यह अशोभनीय है. यही केरल की सरकार तुष्टीकरण की नीति अपना रही है, लेकिन लॉ एंड ऑर्डर बिल्कुल यहाँ गड़बड़ है.
केरल का आलपुआ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में SDPI स्टेट सेक्रेटरी KS शान को RSS का लोग बिना कारण कत्ल किया.
അതേ CPM-ന്റെ ഭരിക്കുന്ന ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ഭാഗത്തുനിന്ന് ഈ SDPIയുടെ നേതാവിനെ കൊല്ലുന്നതിനും SDPIക്കാരനും BJPയുടെ നേതാവിനെ കൊല്ലുന്നതിലും CPM-നോ ഗവൺമെന്റിനോ എന്താ പങ്ക്? നമ്മൾ ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു നിലപാടെടുത്തതിന്റെ ഈ പാർട്ടി ഭരിക്കുന്ന പാർട്ടി എടുത്തതിന്റെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ് എടുത്തതിന്റെ നിലപാടിന്റെ ഫലമായിട്ടാണോ? അല്ലല്ലോ. ഇവർക്ക് രണ്ടുപേർക്കും അവരുടെ മതസ്വാധീനം വർദ്ധിപ്പിക്കാൻ, വർഗീയത വളർത്താൻ പരിശ്രമിക്കുന്നതിന്റെ ഫലമായിട്ടല്ലേ ഇത് നടത്തുന്നത്.
Alapura is still under prohibitory orders and vigilance heightened across Kerala in the aftermath of the murders of the 2 political leaders. With camera person SP Babu, Sneha Koshri for NDTV.
In other news now, a fascinating story of hope in Manipur, arguably the sports capital of the country. An NGO helped and mentored a group of young footballers cherish their dream. They're also very special ones, India's first all-transgender football team. The team, formed by an NGO called Yawal, comprises of over 15 trans men, mostly college students, passionate about the game. They're breaking the stereotype through sport. NDTV's Ratnadeep Chaudhary reports.
The training starts every day with a jogging session around the famous Khuman Nampak Sports Complex in Manipur's capital, Imphal. This sports complex has been the cradle of many champions, from MC Mary Kom to Mirabai Chanu. These youngsters, mostly from high school and colleges, have a common dream and are no ordinary sportspersons from Manipur. They have made the first of its kind football outfit of transgender people in the country, formed last year. YAWL, a non-profit youth-led network for the LGBT community to fight stigmatization and discrimination, came up with this innovative idea of bridging the gap through sports.
We are all of the same gender, means like there's no discrimination among us, like we're of the same type. If we play in a female category, then we get discrimination, like you're too strong, you're too masculine to be playing in a girls' team. That's the kind of discrimination we get. So.
But it didn't happen overnight. It took almost 3 years for Saddam to put together this team.
We started a kind of a friendly match in 2018 to create awareness about inclusion in sports. So that even was unexpectedly well received by the crowd. So when they started playing games and actively participate in sports, people's idea changed.
But to take this team forward, Saddam needs help. Assistance has come from the India chapter of Plan International.
We have a curriculum-based program which teaches different values and skills for these adolescents. No matter what background they are from, they get a equal treatment, equal platform where they can learn and grow to be a healthy.
A six-a-side exhibition match was played in the presence of a large number of supporters, including trans women. To promote gender sensitivity and LGBT rights, the NGO has painted a mural on the boundary walls of the sports complex, perhaps setting an example of how sports can play a central role in addressing sensitive gender issues in society.
Priyanka Chopra stars in the new Matrix film, The Matrix Resurrections, which releases in India this week. She spoke about making space for herself in Hollywood, and that's taken her around a decade. And of course, she will be dancing in a Bollywood movie as well. Here's Priyanka talking to Rohit Khilnani.
Hi Rohit, how are you?
Hey
So good to see you again.
so great, so good to see you and so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I was just telling everyone in the room that you're a film critic, so I need to know what you thought of the movie.
I already told them I loved it, and I was, especially watching you was such a proud moment. Watching Purab was such a proud moment for all of us here.
Thank you so much. So happy.
Right, Priyanka, is it a big deal for Priyanka Chopra Jonas to get a Matrix movie?
Of course it is. I've started working in a completely new industry, and you know that it takes, to build yourself. You've worked a lot in the States as well, so to build yourself up to getting to a point where you get to play pivotal characters, you have to have people develop, at least in the industry, develop a certain confidence with what you can deliver. And that takes time. And I've been working here for almost now 7 years. So it's very exciting to be trusted with, a movie like The Matrix, be given the responsibility of a character like Sati, who was so strategically placed in the last movie, to have a pivotal role in Neo's life. So I feel very proud that, it's taken a lot of work to get where I am, and I still feel like there's a lot more I want to do. I want to, try to have at least as prolific, as prolific a kind of background in entertainment as I did back in India. I've worked with almost every filmmaker, every actor, and do every kind of genre. So yeah, it's a big deal to do The Matrix, I feel like, because it's another step in the direction that I want to go into.
Right, Priyanka, back in the days when we watched the earlier Matrix movies as kids, we could never imagine an Indian actor in an important role in a big world franchise like this one. At what point do you think this changed? And I have to say that you played a big role in it.
Well, I tried, because when I went to the States and I started working there, it was very hard for people to take me seriously. And it was very hard to convince people that I have the ability to deliver if I, play pivotal parts and leads.
Right.
So I did a lot of work. I did not, carry my stardom or carry whatever I had built in India. I walked into every room as a new actor, and I demanded opportunities, honestly. And Rohit, it took, like I said, 7 to 10 years, and I'm just not subtle about it. And I think it's been a long time where global entertainment, English language entertainment has really not given opportunities to South Asian actors or South Asian talent. We've just not had a seat at the table, and I'm not going to stand for that as much as I can help it. So I'm hoping that with my work for myself as well, I'm able to pivot away for myself as an artist, but also be the shoulders for other people to, influx Hollywood like it should be. We are 1/5 of the world's population, but you don't see South Asian people in important roles. There's so few.
But now you see the lines blurring. Now you think we have a seat on the table?
No, I don't. I think we have a foot in the door. I think, for like the few South Asians that we have, the players that we have in Hollywood, whether that's Mindy Kaling, Aziz Ansari, whether that's Hassan Minhaj, and, just like Riz Ahmed, I think all of us have sort of pushed the envelope in a big way where the door has been kicked open, and we have said we want a seat at that table. So I think now is the time where I'm hoping that we will get that.
Right. Lastly, we'll see a good balance of Bollywood and Hollywood, because we expect to see you here as well.
Yeah, I'm end of next year. I'll be filming Jile Zara with Katrina and Alia, and which I'm really excited about. It's been a long time since I've spoken dialogues in Hindi or I've danced to songs. So I told Farhan, I said, I better be dancing in this movie.
Wow, of course. Right, Priyanka, we miss you very much, and every time we see you, it makes us extremely proud. Thank you so much for
Thank
giving
you
us
so
time.
much, Rohit. That means a lot to me.
Now, the Omicron variant accounts for 73% of all sequenced COVID cases in the US, surging from around just 3% last week, according to the latest federal estimates. The highly mutated coronavirus strain has been detected across the country, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said, in a model that it updates weekly. The Delta variant, which had been dominant form of the virus in the US last week, has now receded to roughly 27% of sequenced cases. Well, to talk more about the Omicron variant and its threat to India, we're now joined by Dr. Shashank Joshi, member of the COVID Task Force Maharashtra, Dr. Anurag Mehrotra, coordinator Public Awareness Forum for Vaccination, chairman Siddhi Hospital, and Professor Dr. Anita Ramesh Chandra, senior medical oncologist, Apollo Speciality Hospitals, Chennai. Thank you so much, doctors, for joining us on the program this morning. And Dr. Shashank Joshi, given what we're seeing in the UK and now in the US with Omicron, spreading there, are we going to see a third wave of COVID in February?
Gargi, that's a difficult question to answer because in the UK and US, the pandemic is raging as a Del-Micron, which means it's a dual jeopardy of Delta and Omicron both. And number two, it's predominantly raging in the unvaccinated population or partially vaccinated population. That is where the pandemic is raging. But clearly, Omicron in some geographies like UK, some parts of US has rapidly taken over. What is concerning for us in India is how will Omicron, which is currently very localized, very sporadic, very travel related, will span out in cluster outbreaks, and are we able to mitigate those clusters? And the current Delta, which is there, which is on the decline, whether it again comes back, particularly with crowding, wedding and festive season round the corner. So I think the only silver lining from the Omicron standpoint is that there is a discordance between hospitalizations and deaths and the number of infections. Whatever reportage is there across the world is predominantly mild, and the hospitalized, ICU and deaths are very low. Whatever is happening in Europe, UK and US, the deaths and severe hospitalizations are all coming from the Delta variant, which is being replaced by the Omicron variant. So I think between 15th Jan, it can hit us as early as 15th Jan if we are not able to contain clusters, to 15th February. We will have to be on the vigil and on the guard, and we will have to mandatory masking, better protocols on air ventilation, as well as ensuring that everyone gets the vaccine, at least the first or the second dose, because there's a large population in India, almost 40-45%, who has not received a second dose. And that's very crucial to understand that mask, ventilation and vaccine will be the key, and appropriate behavior or responsible behavior will be the key if we need to really contain this rapid explosive spread of Omicron.
Right, and there are worries that it could already be here. We're seeing cases going up, in the metro cities. The Delhi Chief Minister has announced that they're going to genomic sequence all the positive cases to figure out whether it's indeed here in the community. Dr. Anurag Mehrotra, this has led to a clamor for booster doses of vaccines, because even though we have this situation where, we still have not had a majority of our population vaccinated, but at the same time, there's waning immunity. We know there's reinfection with Omicron, and there's wastage of vaccines in private hospitals.
That's right. In my opinion, I'm saying for long, we must go for the booster dose, at least for the persons who are going to be in the first line of defense, like doctors, healthcare providers, and administration people. And there is no harm in giving that. There are many studies which support the booster dose, and it is a regular and norm in many of the countries. In India, I suppose because large number of populations still not have got second dose, and it is still unvaccinated. So government is taking time to decide whether should we go for the third dose. It may look like a luxury and favoring someone at the expense of other. Maybe that's the reason. But scientifically, there is no reason to deny that.
All right, and what about, vaccines for children? That's another issue we were speaking about a lot a few months ago, and then suddenly, there's no word on it yet. And this is again something that parents are also talking about. And we're seeing in the UK as well as, in the US, cases are spreading among children especially, and, they're carrying it.
Sure. If we don't vaccinate the children, we leave a quite large number of reservoir for the virus to be there.
That's right.
The more the person we have who are vulnerable to infection, we leave them unvaccinated, this is going to the prolongation of the pandemic. So children require that, and there are, again, in many countries it has been recommended. I suppose there are trials going on in India in 5 vaccines for this. And we should have that at earliest. And the thing you were saying earlier, are we going to have third wave or not? I think we are on the cusp of third wave. When there's potential of developing third wave, we must prepare like that only. We have seen the second wave, how fast it develops. So when it starts happening, I suppose it has started happening. And we must take every step to counter that.
No, that's right. In fact, I was asking whether the third wave was going to be in February, and Dr. Shashank Joshi feels that we're going to start seeing it, mid-Jan, the cases going up. Dr. Anita Chandra, what is your view of this, and shouldn't we prioritize vaccines for children now?
Yes, you're right, Gargi. It's time. I think we got the approval by September, October. I'm not sure why the vaccine has not rolled out. Bharat Biotech Covaxin was already approved by the DCGI, and the schools have opened, and the younger children are also started going to school. It is high time that the vaccine has to be given, and the children should not be now the super spreaders of this Omicron infection being unvaccinated and exposed. That is big concern is there. And Indian vaccine manufacturers, they have enough vaccine, and you rightly pointed out there is vaccine wastage. So why not vaccinate the children along with the healthcare workers and the high-risk individual who can be a super spreader later on. And there, like how my colleagues have also said, there is no harm. And we have data from different countries like Pfizer, Moderna have come up that their booster doses does protect them from Omicron. Pfizer have already documented that the third dose, Moderna papers came out yesterday in the public domain saying that the third, that they will definitely help them from the Omicron virus. So we should, I think, it should start simultaneously. Nothing should be one before the other. Yes, please complete the single vaccination of the entire country. At the same time, finish the double vaccination. Start simultaneously third vaccine for the high risk, and also the children should be started. All should run parallelly because the same platform, and then only we can fight this war, because we don't know. And now conflicting data of Omicron is coming. We thought it was mild, asymptomatic, no ICU admission, but now the recent yesterday's papers are saying conflicting data from the Imperial College, which says that yes, it may not be that mild. So all the more what Dr. Joshi said and Dr. Anurag said, we need to gear up. We don't know what is there in future, how many mutations can come, and so the whole country. And also, I feel not only vaccination, like I think you mentioned it, that the government is prepared for we need to prepare our healthcare system, more oxygen plants, number of beds, train the doctors, nurses, recruit more people. And if the children are going to be the target, many has to be trained in handling pediatric cases. So that's a big burden. And everybody, not only the bigger hospitals, but the primary health center, secondary health centers, tertiary health centers, all needs to be geared up. Then only we can find smoothly. And again, I always keep telling people, build oxygen plants, because in Chennai, many of the hospitals have started having their own oxygen plants. Even the government, ESI and all have now their own plants. Many of the private hospitals, oxygen plant is very, very important, because remember, it's a respiratory virus, rhinovirus. So that's how we have to all gear up at all ends. And even pharma companies, being an oncologist, I'm with the drug deal with the drug companies, and I do a lot of clinical trials. We need to have our own studies, more R&Ds, and I think government is also helping. Many of the companies are boosting up production of different drugs.
Right.
We don't know
I
what
think,
we will make.
there is talk that we are better prepared this time, and we've had the health minister say in Parliament that we're ready to deal with Omicron. Dr. Shashank Joshi, we need to have more vaccines in our kitty as well. There's talk of how mixing different vaccine doses, maybe the booster can be another vaccine that would provide better immunity. Also, the focus on, helping the public manage COVID at home, because if it's going to be mild, we just need to emphasize the protocols and, give that assistance and not burden the hospitals and manage, mild cases at home.
Absolutely, Gargi. So managing home isolation, we'll have more options. Now we will have drugs beyond favipiravir like molnupiravir or the ritonavir booster therapy from Pfizer. These can be good options if treated early and hit hard early. Secondly, we need larger armamentarium of vaccines like the subunit vaccine, Covovax or Novavax, which has come in, or the mRNA vaccine coming from Genova from India. So we have the Zydus DNA vaccine still not rolled out. We have actually approval for the Moderna in India through CIPLA, but it's still not rolled out. So I think it's important that we expand the number of vaccinations. We have our additional dose policy in place quick and fast, and generate some mix and match data quick and fast, and ensure that we are ready. I think the pandemic preparedness for another wave is there from all the state governments as well as the central government, and we will have better treatment options, more aggressive options. But it's important to also ensure that both the healthcare force and the frontline force is also protected, and also particularly the people who can't mount an immune response. There are a lot of people who have diseases, underlying conditions, who can't mount an antibody response or a T-cell response. And it's important that we give that additional dose to them as well. But you're absolutely right that we need to do some EUAs or emergency use authorizations for a larger Make in India, Made in India vaccines. We still have not rolled out the biological events, the vaccine coming from Janssen, the vaccine coming from the subunit vaccine. Now, WHO has already approved the Serum Institute Covovax. So that needs to be ruled out in India. We have the mRNA from Genova, which needs a EUA. So I think it's important that we roll out additional vaccine manufacturers, scale up their capacity and vaccinate a larger population quick and fast. And particularly also look at children, vulnerable groups like senior citizens, comorbidities as well.
And there's no reason this all can't happen parallelly. Thank you so much, doctors, for talking to us and, emphasizing these points. And hopefully the government will, I think maybe they're waiting for next year and trying to vaccinate as many people in this particular year. And hopefully by next year, we will have a plan for booster doses and vaccines for children. Thank you for joining us on the program today.